Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Career Chat. I'm Krista Harmon, one of the career readiness consultants with the Kent Intermediate School District, and I am delighted to have Marcus Manders with us today. He is the Director of Supply Chains, Operation, and Sustainability. That is a lot of responsibility, Marcus. I'm looking forward to digging in.
It's a mouthful for sure.
So as we get into really what all that means, I'd love just to take you first back to high school. Did you think you'd even grow up to be in the world of supply chain and operations and sustainability? Tell us about that.
Absolutely not. In high school, I really loved running cross country and I loved math. And somewhere my brain put those two things together that I was going to be a stockbroker, that I was going to be like running across Wall Street with a piece of paper saying, we're buying this stock at a certain level. And everyone I spoke to said, Marcus, that's crazy. Yeah, you might love math, but you're definitely a people person. You thrive in an audience and speaking. And so you want to do something that's just really going to help people. And I said, nope, I'm going to be a stockbroker. And I'm grateful that I'm not. I love what I'm doing.
So what took that turn then? I mean, people started saying, hey, dude, that's not it. But how did you start to say, maybe that isn't the right fit? And where did your mind start to go then?
That's a great question. Yeah, so it really was as further along in my education, went to Ferris State University and actually ended up taking a step back and really needed to reevaluate, like, where do I really want to be? I thought I wanted to do business administration and moved home. And actually it was opportunities in just having to be an individual on my own, having to support myself. And so finding entry-level administrative assistant work while taking courses at GRCC, where I said, you know what, public speaking, writing papers, doing, math is great, but I really would rather present in front of class. And that's where my love for human resources, working with people, but still helping business. And that's where my focus was. And that's where I actually started my career with Mary Freebed, where I'm at currently. But prior to that, I was an admin assistant and then worked to do some business development for Michigan Works, still helping people, not so much on the numbers, but helping people achieve a job and overcome barriers, whether it be resume writing or interviewing skills. That's what really said, you know what, I really do enjoy people more than numbers.
Well, I love two things that you've already shared. That sometimes we have a plan and we start heading out there and all of a sudden it's not working out. And you had to do a little reversal and come back home and start working and go to college at GRCC. And I think that's fantastic because it's not linear. And we want young people to know that this journey is a journey. And so I love that you just kept your eye on the prize, though, the big picture of a college education. And that you got some experiences that started shaping this whole HR, human resources kind of facet. So what was that first job as an administrative assistant like? Because how did you even know how to do that? Some young people are thinking. So tell us about those early jobs.
Something that I would give as just lifelong advice, and it certainly pertained with my earlier positions, is always remain open to opportunities and possibilities. And so being intrigued with, okay, I need to find a job and how I can help people. As an administrative assistant, it really was just meeting people where they are, being a really good listener to identify, what it is that someone needs. And whether that is my boss or that be a customer, and knowing that if I can help them, then ultimately I'm helping myself in my career, and you feel good about what you're doing. So as an administrative assistant, certainly learning what the style is of my supervisors and how to meet different individuals coming from all different walks of life, and how they can be successful. I had the pleasure of working with individuals who had decades of career experience working in a manufacturing facility, and because of jobs trading overseas or whatnot, those individuals, very hard workers, and their passion, they're driven to, they just want to go back and work again. And knowing that I can help them, we can take what you did and put that in paper and put words to it and help you apply for positions. That was great. And then also working with a new college grad and asking them, what did you really enjoy? And just meeting people where they are. So never saying no and always listening to what the end customer wants. I think that's been something that uh, has helped in my career thus far.
Yeah, and you have such a great energy. I know that some young people are thinking too, like, how'd you even know that job existed? And how'd you hear about that very first job? Was it networking? Had you seen it in the newspaper? It doesn't even
Yeah,
exist anymore. I'm dating myself, but
sure.
like on Indeed, like what was that transition? Like, how did you even get there?
Great advice I've heard is that it isn't who you know, it's who knows you. And so, I'm outspoken and I like to interact with people. I'm a people person. And so if that's you, then, don't be afraid to, speak up in class or to sit in the front of class or to participate in things that might, push you outside of your comfort level. But how I heard about Michigan Works was actually just looking for a position myself and knowing the resources that are available in the community. I moved from Big Rapids to Grand Rapids, and I had to look online on how to find a place to rent, find a roommate, using that same online search to find out what kind of organizations were available to help connect me with employers, and then ultimately getting to work with that employer. So searching actively, and also don't underestimate the career postings or the job postings. Especially I interacted with some at GRCC, but keeping an eye on those even when I went back to finish up my degree at Ferris State and ultimately my master's at Grand Valley. So online certainly, but know the community resources, and there are so many in Kent County. We're really quite blessed.
Yeah. So how did you end up getting your degree, your undergrad in human resources then?
Yeah, business admin. Yep, with
Yep.
an HR focus. I
Okay.
retook the courses I didn't do so hot on at Ferris. And that is actually, I needed to do an internship. And that is how I got into Mary Free Bed, where I've been for the last 10 and a half years. So needed an internship, and I went down to part-time, took a risk, went down to part-time at my job at Michigan Works so I could do an internship unpaid at Mary Free Bed. Needed it for college credit to graduate. And, through hard work, through not saying no to being open to different opportunities and experiences, ultimately decided to quit Michigan Works, gave them a notice, of course, and work part-time and then eventually full-time at Mary Free Bed.
So for you, that internship translated right into full-time job, which is
Yes.
beautiful. So that's
Yes.
fantastic. So you got your master's then. What did you get your master's in? And how did you
Uh,
choose that?
my master's in health administration, and that was because I fell in love with the culture of Mary Free Bed. I fell in love with healthcare, and I really thought that was the good balance, especially having that business degree, still keeping that love for the numbers, but working with people. I had the privilege of onboarding interns and volunteers, which are other great ways to get into the career or to explore career paths that you may be interested in, but also new employees. I conducted phone screens and doing background checks, that sort of thing. So it was ultimately my love for healthcare that said I want to go back and get my master's degree, as well as want to continue to invest in myself. So being a lifelong learner, it is important. It's more than a cliche. I was in human resources for 3-4 years, and then the opportunity arose where Mary Free Bed was expanding. We needed to build a new tower, and you can't miss it from Welpy Street. And procurement and supply chain, those did not even exist when I started as an intern at Mary Free Bed. So you hear that statistic that some percentage of jobs that might be available in the next 15-20 years have not existed yet. Supply chain has been around for a while, but it did not exist at Mary Free Bed. And by working on some special projects for some of the department managers in between my human resources position, my day-to-day responsibilities, they said, hey, we need someone who's an avid learner, a go-getter, and who can meet with all of the department heads, therapy, with nursing, with physicians, with facilities or maintenance, plant services, EVS, environmental services, to identify what do we need to purchase in order to outfit this new building. And so that's how I pivoted from human resources to supply chain, and have continued to work and develop a team to support that.
Well, and exactly for a lot of young people may not even know what procurement means or supply chain. And I know those are really in demand jobs. So why don't you just give us a quick kind of definition what that is, and then share what your typical day is like for us.
Certainly. So procurement, it's purchasing, it's buying. So there's different ways that we can procure certain items, and sometimes we will send something out for bid. So we have an idea of a certain type of device we want, maybe a copier or a printer, or maybe a type of therapy table. But there's all different sorts of manufacturers. So procurement is more than just like Amazon searching something and buying that one. It's identifying the different factors that might why do we want to purchase this? What's the warranty on this product? The weight capacity, some of the different features and functions, are they going to meet the end user's need? And also terms, right? So I can buy this and get an incredible price today, or is it something that we want to potentially lease or before we own? So procurement is purchasing, and there's a lot that goes into that. Supply chain, there's a lot of different arms to supply chain. There's logistics, there's procurement, there's sourcing, and so that might be identifying which of the vendors you even want to evaluate before you get to the product level. What was the second part of that question, Krista?
No, you did a beautiful part of explaining what those are. And then maybe what a typical day is like for you.
Certainly. That's a great question. So we have procurement. There's a whole lot of different things. There might be some routine supplies. So I support the team that will ensure that the day-to-day supplies that we need, whether those be wound dressings or gauze or briefs or syringes or any of the different disposables, a lot of these isolation masks, supporting the team that make sure that what we need is in the right location. So keeping things organized and restocking those supplies. So there was a lot of routine supplies, but as we also continue to grow, there are requests for different types of projects. We might have a project manager or a therapist who is looking to open a new facility or expand a facility. And so that might be less than just buying a routine supply. It's identifying, what is the end goal? What does the space look like? What's the type of equipment that you're going to need? And then working with them to make sure it fits within the space and that it meets within their budget. So there's a lot of those types of meetings and interactions as well. It is not unlikely for me to have a tape measure on me to measure specific equipment. And then also spending a lot of time working with vendors. We are the customer as we purchase different supplies and different equipments. So we have to maintain and cultivate those relationships. If we buy from one supplier today and then a different one tomorrow, not only is that inconsistent, or it might be difficult for the end user, but it also doesn't help cultivate a relationship so that, with price increases, gas prices are going up, food prices are going up. How can we stay ahead of the curve in that by having a good relationship, or at least knowing what might be coming down the horizon, so that we can purchase more effectively?
Well, what I'm hearing, Marcus, which is so amazing as a career developer, is that you knew in your heart in the early days that you were math and your brain thinks very analytical, and other people were seeing your human resource side. And now you have this dream job that puts it all together. So just an encouragement to young people, it's not an either or, if it's an and. And I think that's what's so great about Career Chats, is that we kind of shine some light onto careers that blend all sorts of skills and talents. So when you look at your career as a whole, and even your job right now, what are some of those characteristics about you, in addition to what you've been saying, that you want young people to know this is a kind of job, it's a pretty cool job?
Yeah. Really find out what makes you tick, what you enjoy. I knew I enjoyed running. I knew I enjoyed math and working with people, and maybe even also get the perspective of others. Not only perspective of what do they think that I do well, or where do they see as areas where I can improve, but also the perspective, because the more interactions that you have with different individuals, then they know you. And so if an opportunity comes up, they're gonna be like, oh, yeah, Marcus doesn't work in supply chain, but I wonder if he'd be interested in, because you've developed that relationship. So relationships are also incredibly important. And especially, as a leader, I have teams that I need to support as well. So you can never, you never want to lose touch with the individuals that are really helping with the day-to-day, because they know what supplies are like. They're closest to the problem, but they're also closest to the solution. So being a good listener to, what are some of the challenges that you're facing? And they're like, oh yeah, maybe we do need to look at how, we streamline our loading dock and some of our stocking processes. So the other would be an internship. Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that if you're not sure, or even if you think you're sure about where you want to go in your career, it doesn't hurt to do an internship. And if the organization or the career you're looking for doesn't have an internship, volunteer. It's still, again, it gets you into other circles where people will think of you when an opportunity arises. And then I guess the last thing is, I don't say no unless you have a really good reason. Think twice before saying no to any sort of opportunity. I just finished my bachelor's degree, with human resources focus, and I had the job, but full-time, Mary Free Bed, HR. And I had aspired to be a recruiter. Like, okay, I'm helping the recruiters, I'm working with the interns and the volunteers and onboarding, but I want to actually actively recruit. I want to be a headhunter and find the right nurse or therapist for our organization. Applied for a position as a recruiter and didn't get it. Hired someone who was much better than me, and I'm glad they did. But that didn't discourage me. Instead, by not saying no to some of those other opportunities, again, when they needed someone to do purchasing and procurement, they thought of me. So don't say no to an opportunity, even if you're like, I just got the career, I want to kind of stick in this area, unless you have a really good reason. And I think one really good reason is to make sure you don't spread yourself too thin. But if you're looking for opportunities, be hungry for any opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah, I can hear that just in even how your career's evolved already. That's so fantastic. What are some of those challenges? What are some of the spots like, oh, this is not so great? And I know we don't want to focus on the negative by any means, but I like young people to hear, kind of the pros and the cons.
Sure. It really is easy to get lost behind your desk, behind your computer, especially in the age that we are, right? Everything is Zoom, and, the COVID era, individuals aren't, prone to meet. And also, information is coming at you from so many different directions. So you've got LinkedIn, and you've got emails, and you've got all these different meetings that you can be in. But where relationship is really built, and where opportunities are, lasting memories and opportunities really come about, are out in the community. And so that's where an internship, volunteering, or even if it's socially distanced or outdoors, which is tough in February in Michigan, but building relationships, it has to be done in person. And there's nothing like the real thing. So I would say, especially as a leader, as a manager, it's often easy to like, oh, got to get this email out, I got to go to this meeting. Put people first, and people need people. Technology sometimes help connect people, but put people first.
Yeah, that's so fantastic. And mentioning technology, I know when you were, in college, you probably learned certain software, or maybe you got to your new job and you didn't know it. Help young people understand that that's okay, that's normal, and that you'll learn things along the way. Help them understand how some of that evolved for you. Did you get classwork? Did you have to learn on the job?
A lot of on the job training. One thing that I don't think will ever go away is keying skills, typing. I would encourage everyone to be proficient with typing, because it means you can spend less time behind the computer, right? You can hammer out that email quicker, or leverage technology. I talked about being a learner before. Something that, if I wasn't a fast typer from a lot of practice, is and maybe that isn't your strong suit, identify maybe how you can overcome that. There's a lot of great software where you can talk and it will type your information in there. It's actually really great accessible software too for individuals who have different abilities. So a lot of on-the-job training though, And a lot of great organizations and schools will help identify and let you know kind of what the industry trends or standards are with technology. But typing, I would recommend, if you're a hunt and pecker, you do that old school piece of paper taped at the top in practice, because it does make progress.
Yeah, I think about that often when I'm typing. I think of my high school typing teacher, and he always said, you have a skill that will never be able to be taken away from you. And sometimes I'm just flying along thinking, I'm so glad I paid attention.
Yes, yes.
Some of the things that they focus in on schools these days, Marcus, are employability skills or soft skills, life skills, things like teamwork, problem solving. What are some of those other things about your job that you want to reinforce what the teachers are doing in the schools? Why is that stuff important?
Why is that important? Oh my goodness, that is the workplace. Culture is everything. So you have to be able to get along with individuals, and the more practice that you have, if you're working on a team or working, whether a sports team or a group project, it definitely takes practice, but identifying that just because there is an item or an issue or a project or a task, work with the individuals to get that job done. Same thing when you get an email like, oh, this item, this broke, or this item that we had requested, it didn't show up on time, seeing past the complaint or the issue and really focusing on, how can we help make this process better? Just because someone brings you bad news or news of something that needs to be done, doesn't mean it's something negative. In fact, I see it as a positive that they feel comfortable sharing that concern with me. So culture, being open, being honest, and being approachable, that comes with practice, and it comes with working well together, the practice that you get in school and in sports, and through volunteering and interning, again, that's critically important.
Yeah, it's everything, isn't it? Really, when it comes down to it. It sounds like all your HR training though paid off. Like all that people stuff for you has just come full circle. Do you, I know you're in a leadership position now. Do you see yourself continuing down that road, Marcus? Do you like the
Certainly.
leadership thing?
I do enjoy it quite a bit. And one of the best things about being a leader is that you're able to cultivate and support others. So I started as an intern, and now I host 2 supply chain interns every semester. At Mary Free Bed, we have 2 remarkable ones who are helping with some ongoing projects. So teaching that forward and giving back is of the utmost importance. And it helps, I'm learning things from the interns as well, like some of the software that they're using, and even some of the conversations that you have, they're like, I need to keep that in mind when my daughter goes to college. She's like, I haven't paid for college textbooks in like 2-3 semesters because there's, you can get online PDFs of, most of them. I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I'd known that. Still paying off those loans, right? So I'm learning a lot, but also trying to give back as well. So I enjoy being a leader. And there's something to be said about being with an organization where you can be promoted from within and promote from within. So a lot of people today are really focusing on that work-life blend and wanting to know they show up to a place where they feel appreciated and supported, that the work they're doing is valued, and that they know that they're making a difference. And I'm proud to say Mary Free Bed has that, and our team as well. So working well with people and making sure that the culture is a good fit for you is very important too.
I've been fortunate to take students on tours of Mary Free Bed, and I had a student say, it feels like hope in here. I'm like, oh, that's so true. Just kind of the vibe there. And I love that you have a passion for running. I don't know if you're still a runner, but you did at the time. Yeah. And so be working, in a healthcare setting where, helping people be all they can be after an injury, or I think that's just so cool. So I guess young people keep that in mind, that you can work for an organization that matches up to your values and your interests, right? Anything else you'd like to say on that specific point, Marcus?
Oh, I think you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, really think and dig deep on like what it is that you enjoy doing. What's the change that you would like to see in the world? And then how can you help be that or move towards that direction? I'm not a direct caregiver, but I am inspired by the care that our team gives. And even though I'm not, physically assisting someone, I know that without the equipment, the supplies, the tools, the infrastructure, the buildings and the equipment that we're purchasing, that none of this would be possible. So that inspires me because nowhere did I state that I enjoyed, working directly on physically with people. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Find something that inspires you, and then how can you support it?
Because people will say, even with sports, right? Maybe they don't end up being the professional athlete that they wanted to be, but there's a whole industry of sports. Like, find your niche in there and be around sports. Like, it doesn't have to end there. I was in hospitality. I got to stay at free Hilton hotels because I worked in hospitality. So there's all sorts of perks to be had. We have about 1 minute left, Marcus. You've been such a bright spot today. We've already gotten some comments in the chat that they love your energy.
Awesome, thanks.
That final word of wisdom as young people are watching this, what would you like them to know?
Be optimistic. It's hard to, you hear all sorts of, negativity in the news and, but if you focus on the good and put your energy towards that and, connect with individuals, of all different walks of life, all different backgrounds, and stay true to yourself, then the future is bright.
I think what I'm taking away is it's not who you know, it's who knows you. I love that. I'm going to probably have that printed and put it in my office.
Network, for sure.
Network. Well, have a great afternoon, Marcus. It's been a joy to have you today.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Kent ISD.